My first question, do you have a daily or weekly routine? You could include your webmaster corporate job, seasonal chores like gardening, for instance. This is June when we're doing this interview. And cooking, cleaning, maintenance projects, and of course writing and making time for creative projects and time with family and friends.
Well, I managed to be retired until the age of 42, and then at 42 I decided to enter the world of organic food. Have been working as a webmaster of organicvalley.com for the last 8 years. It's an interesting job because it really combines a couple passions that I have, and that's creating art on the web or using web technology, and also growing and producing organic food and eating and surrounding yourself with the environment of organic food. Unfortunately, I was ill-prepared for actually working a full-time job, so that over a period of time, it really has taught me to value and utilize my time in a lot different way than I was used to up until that point. Now that I've entered the job force, it really does make me become a man of routine, and I've been doing, to work at a computer for 8 hours, then come home and work on electronic music on the computer or desktop publishing or create new web projects, each of them which requires literally hundreds of thousands of hours to do an individual project. It's really forced me to look at just what I do for money compared to what I do for my creative space. In the last few years, I've really put a lot more energy into sort of regaining a lot of the writing that I was doing, which even though you're maybe working part of it online or on the computer, a lot of writing activities can actually be done without using the computer or be done out in a place like this. And so I've really been concentrating for the last couple of years on finishing up a lot of sort of unfinished projects, including a poem called Samsara Conjuries, a long poem that I started in 1978 when I was a freshman in college. And for years and years I've been working on this thing sort of on and off, where I work on it for one book and then kind of close the cover on it and not open it up again for another 6 months or a year. And that's been going on and off for almost 30 years. And now, the last couple of years, I've really decided, well, enough of this, that I really need to sort of make the final steps to, bring it to print, get it out there, start having it exist in the world. I always say about the long poem that it was established in 1978, almost like an establishment or the beginning of a business or a project. And so it's really had sort of an amorphous life of itself. Some of the other things that I kind of make up my life on a week-to-week basis are my love of permaculture, horticulture, different sorts of interest in botany and houseplants, bonsai. One of the projects that I have going is here at Dreamtime Village. We have a 3-acre permaculture demonstration, and what that means is that we've created a sort of a wild system of trees and bushes, herbs, ground covers, vines, literally just about anything that grows in Wisconsin that produces something that is edible or medicinal or useful. I've been working on trying to grow it in this space, this 3-acre space, and a lot of the things that are here are planted in more of a wild setting. So when you're walking around, you're actually seeing what looks more like kind of a crazy hodgepodge woods instead of a more formal notion of what a garden looks like with everything planted in straight rows. We've been planting a lot of stuff. In the summer, some of the things that we harvest include grapes, apples, pears, blueberries, blackberries. We're just starting to harvest our first kiwis this year. Other kinds of things like asparagus and Siberian pea shrub, sea buckthorn, which is a fruit from the Himalayas that grows on the wood of the tree. and produces the fruit that has the highest vitamin C of any fruit in the northern hemisphere. And so grow a lot of these things in just sort of a wild setting. And the big effort is to get the stuff into the ground. And after a couple of years, it starts taking off by itself, and it really all this stuff sort of becomes sort of a wild space that, rather than be a gardener, I'm much more of a hunter-gatherer, where I go through and try to take advantage of and make use of some of the things that are here. I'll also grow a lot of more sort of exotic house plants and indoor fruits, such as papaya, banana. I have a portable fig orchard of 100 fig trees, and actually was able to produce about 40 pounds of fresh organic local figs last year, which is the first year in all the years I've been doing this that I actually had sort of enough figs to be able to share with people, make jam and jelly, and just have a surplus of figs, which is an unusual thing in Wisconsin. Some of the other things that I do on a daily or a weekly basis include working on Suzaxial Editions. Suzaxial Editions is an Experimedia publishing project that has been in existence for quite a long time. We have about 150 titles, and one of the dilemmas I find myself at is that all of our books, which were originally published on Xerox machine and hand-bound, it's no longer possible, and so I've been working at digitizing all the books, all 150 titles, making them available as free PDF downloads on the Suzaxial website, but then also setting them up so that I can also print hard copy versions of the books, to fulfill orders and to keep these books in existence. Well, digitizing and bringing, scanning and digitizing and bringing a book into existence is almost the same as doing new books. It really requires a lot of energy. And so for the last 3 or 4 months or so, I've been trying to bring out 2 or 3 of the old titles a week. And it really just involves a lot of pure tedium, just scanning, color correcting, paste up, proofing, and just things that are as uncreative as possible, but yet in a way it also sort of ties the loop with kind of the things I've been doing all my life and bringing it more into the contemporary now and making the books really much more accessible than they were. Because oftentimes in the old days the books would run out of stock, and so we'd have to make up another 25 to 50 copies, and that required a tremendous amount of hand effort in the old days, because we'd have to copy each page out on the copy machine and then collate everything together and then hand bind these things. As you can imagine, it took a long time. Now it's a little bit nicer because I can just order my, keep things in print and order small editions from a number of different print-on-demand printers depending on the title, and it just allows me to have a lot of the titles around. It's really kind of fun to visit some of these titles, which originally published books by Bruce Andrews, Charles Bernstein, Hannah Weiner, David Cole, Dan Raphael, Craig Hill, lots of other people, Peter Lamborn Wilson. And the act of digitizing the books kind of brings them back into, it allows you to revisit these titles, which in some ways you forget about because you're really spending time on each page and almost rediscovering like the first time you saw them. Which is to say that I actually do spend a tremendous amount of time on the computer, way too much, and at some point I'm hoping for the non-monitor laptop or non-monitor keyboard interface to a computer. I'll be glad for those days where I don't have to sit in front of a screen all the time in order to do the computing work that I have to do. Summer life and winter life are pretty different. As you can see now, in the summer it's just an unending jungle out here. Once it gets to be, winter and snow and below zero weather, a lot of the activities and stuff all take place, inside. It really creates a different kind of approach to things. In the summer, my life really has sort of a flow from being stuck at work, and then coming home, and then as soon as possible trying to go out and take a walk in my garden every day. One of my greatest pleasures is the first half hour or so every day that I'm here. I usually take a walk around and look at stuff, try not to do anything, and just observe what things have changed since the day before. it provides you a lot of information with not just the garden here, but just it's a three-dimensional sort of feedback system where not only are you observing the plants and stuff, but you also observe the changes that you as a human go through in relation to the way the plants are changing. And it's some people might call it reflective, but I think it's much more immersive in that you go into a sort of a wild space where things don't have to be put into words.
You might like to discuss the history, present and future of your small press and online publishing ventures. Feel free to break down your answers into segments, segues, or segmental phenomena, and to mention your peers in these ventures. I'm especially interested in the origins of Zoxial. It's a lot of X's to pronounce in Spider King.
Zoxial editions began about 28 years ago. It was originally called Xerox Sutra Editions, and it was started by Elizabeth Was and myself in Madison. And when we first started printing, our main interests were in printing one-of-a-kind books on the copy machine. And what we would do is we basically would take the copy machine, open the cover, and put a piece of saran wrap over the glass, turn the machine on like 100 copies, and then we would do live painting into the glass of the copy machine and generate the copies and then bind those up into books. So the original Xerox Sutra books were all completely one-of-a-kind book objects. After a while, we sort of migrated into becoming very involved with underground publishing and the small press, and shifted more to publishing the works of other people, mostly works that sort of focused on visual poetry, extended forms of writing, some conceptual works and performance art and stuff. We were still very, very interested in being tied to the copy machine, and so all the books were made in very small editions, usually 10 to 50 copies. I usually refer to this as appropriate scale publishing. This is in an era, early 80s, when most everybody thought that the only way that you could publish books is to make 300 or 500 or 1,000 copies at once and store those in the closet and try to spend the next 20 years distributing those. So with appropriate scale publishing, you concentrate more on just getting some copies present. When those sell, you make some more. Pretty much the way everybody publishes at this point in time, but back then it was a very innovative process. Some of the Xerox Sutra books involved a lot of sort of unique bookmaking. We had books that were a deck of cards that went into a cassette cover. One of our books had sandpaper covers. Another book we bound with using screws and nuts. Still, the books were very one-of-a-kind. A lot of times we would dumpster materials in order to make the books. In about 84, we got a letter from Xerox Corporation threatening to sue us for competing business interests because we were using the word Xerox in the title of our press. And it was a pretty momentous occasion and definitely a turning point in the history of Zoxial publishing. But at that point, we had sold $500 worth of books, and we weren't too worried about the lawsuit. It was more just sort of novel to get the letter in the mail. When we decided to go nonprofit and applied for nonprofit status, we decided, well, it probably wasn't too good to have the word Xerox in the title of our nonprofit corporation. So we selected a word that looked like Xerox, which is where we came up with Zoxial, in order to sort of carry that history forward. Zoxial Editions has been publishing for well over 20 years, and we've published about 150 books, countless little chapbooks and one-of-a-kind things. And we also run a magazine called Zerolage, which is the longest-running visual poetry magazine in North America, as far as I can tell now that Lost and Found Times has gone to sleep. And each issue of Zero Lodge is focused on the work of one artist. And we've published people from all around the world and are very, very interested in visual poetry as sort of an international language that transcends borders and consciousness and communicates things in a way that textual writing can never hope to accomplish. Zazaxio was very, very much a product of myself and Elizabeth Was, who later changed her name to Lix-ish. When she died in 2004 of pancreatic cancer, it really was a turning point for how Zazaxio was being done. Because up to that point, she was, I did a lot of the book production and layout design, and she was the person who did all the binding, hand binding. Even hardcovers were old books that we ripped the insides out and we put new books in, or we put our books inside, and then all the softcover books were all printed on a copy machine and bound and collated and bound all by hand. And we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of copies of books. Well, when she died, it's no longer feasible to do books that way. So over the last 3 or 4 years, what I've been doing is digitizing all the Zazaxio titles, converting them to print on demand, so that the titles can stay in print. That's something we're very interested in, is keeping those titles in print, because those books in the early 80s are as good and as important as books that are being written at the present time. It's sort of too easy to forget what's been done before. And so that's really what I've been doing all this summer, is I've been digitizing Zazaxio books. I've done about 30 books in the last 2.5 months, and eventually hope to have the whole catalog done. And one of the bonuses of digitizing all the books is that we will offer free PDF downloads of all these titles. So even if you can't afford or don't want to buy a copy, you can download a PDF copy and at least see kind of what things we've done and what's out there. Spider Tangle is an email list that's hosted on Yahoo Groups, and it's a email list devoted to visual poetry and all the various sort of side offshoots of visual poetry consciousness. The list was created after a conference held by John Bennett at Ohio State University. During that conference, a lot of people showed up that I had known for more than 20 years, and was actually sort of surprised that all these people were actually still active and doing things. And so the list was originally began as a way to keep in contact with all these folks, and it sort of has blossomed into the visual poetry mailing list available on the net right now. It's a pretty low intensity list, not much volume, not a lot of spam, not too much flaming or crazy theoretical discussions going on, and it's very, very much geared toward networking of visual poetry. So a lot of calls come to the list. When people have new work, they post links to the work. And once in a while, the list even produces a project devoted to members of the list. I've been editing an anthology called Anthology Spider Tangle that has the work of about 40 members of the list. Hopefully that book will be out before Christmas 2008.
If you are currently working on a book or online visual poetry program, how's it going? Tell us a little about that.
The project that I've been working on probably most of my adult life is a long poem called Samsara Conjuries. I started it right out of high school, and it really began from a single incident. I was searching in the library of the town that I grew up in, and I found some microfiche from 1872, and it was in rhyme couplets. It was an obituary of a Modoc warrior who died in the Modoc Indian Wars, and he was also the second baseman and a shaman and a member of the Young Red Man's Horse Plagiarizing Society. And I was so interested in reading this obituary of this Indian that it got me into researching further about the Modoc Indian history and contacting and finding out the tribal honor roll. if this person, Shack Nasty Jack, existed. I later found out that he really didn't exist, so possibly the obituary was made up to begin with. But it basically created the first book of my long poem, where I sort of imagined myself in the context of being this warrior, second baseman, member of the Horse Plagiarizing Society, and wrote through that by taking the Modoc English Dictionary and using that as sort of a source book for writing an extended poem. From there, it jumped into basically the next 30 years writing 14 different books. Each book is essentially myself reincarnated as a different entity. One of the books, I was a 90s performance artist. Another one, a member of a band. Other ones are much more sort of amorphous, where it's not necessarily a person, but maybe a dialect or some sort of consciousness. And as time went on, the books became more and more abstracted, multi-referenced, cut up and cut between, and became much more interested in using language to explore all the possible identities in a particular worldview. Samsara Conjuries has been going on for 30 years, and it's time to at least get a copy of the book out. And so the last 5 years I've been working on getting a typescript together, and I'm close to being able to actually release a copy of the book, hopefully in the next year or two. It really sort of, it's the work of writing that I've done that I really think encompasses really the world of mIEKAL aND. A lot of the other works I've done have been much more hybrid forms into, combining lots of other things. And I think this book, in a way, has sort of contains more pure writing than anything else I've ever done.
This is my spouse, John Bennett, helped me with. As a close to this interview, or you could make this the largest part of the interview if you wish, please read some of your poetry, or discuss one of your online interactive visual poetry programs, which are quite interesting. Well, that's all, mIEKAL. Thank you very much for being part of this project. And enjoy your summer, fall, winter, spring.
Humanity has left me behind because their blood is newer and spilled with less cause. The priests of renewal are now car salesmen in Akron, Ohio, but they are slippery now and will not give you the deal they make you believe. Her ocean is washing over me, agitated like war or dread anxiety. There must be others in this story who we are forgetting. I have seen them pressing the submit button, but they never appear on their own. Only the writers take credit for their appearance when it is their noble cast that elaborates the theater. Torment is never conditional for those who are not spared. When the war is over, I will be available. Probably you will not contact me because my fingers are too stiff from hiding the war journals in the sheets of another man's fiction. Trumpets when called for. It isn't conflict without managing a bite behind the neck of her surrendered hiatus. A bite around the neck, minus the text left, unrecognized, minute, and aplexy typo shimmering devices of translation. Babblefish is my avatar romp. Come to the war and speak forth the ear trumpet. Cough your sylexic surprise. The war is turning. Rattlecoat Brigade snookered in a hollow hill in yonder Wisconsin Underground Railroad, 1864, West Lima, Wisconsin, nearby. Since we have the hairpin, young travelers coming here, I wipe my tears, obliterated and buried. Why should one care? Writhing upwards, belongs to another time. 10,000 noises died down. I recall those years. My shadow falls at random. I've known the tramp. I'll never fall behind. Choked by feeling, bells ring in evening sky. My sorrow resembles family stripped clean. this charming beauty, keep pace with ambition, share a farewell cup in a frozen land on her new robe, whip tucked in her sleeve, and showers affection as if we must beg for poverty. Not too much wine when he wakes up. Do we ever wake? Who brings war? I'm tired of poetry. Don't you see withered trees I must leave among the clouds? Always the disturbing meditation. No one can give my food to the crows. Who lives scene by scene? Blooms burst her green mound. Flutes and wind once parted. My severe decay has yet to go where I go. I'm drunk and the world is vast. I've never been here, and I'll lift up my skirt in front of his melancholy. Why must I see the immortals? In a boat, on a bird, it was very sad. A girl grows up and she climbs out of bed. Green, green, I didn't dare run along the edge. Poetry is one great essence. We steal a night, listening to its sounds. I shall pity the innumerable wilderness, moon, wandering in solitude. I scan through text, but discontent grows great. The former rage freshen the frost. From birth to modern times, echoes of chimes and bells empty a man's mind. Leaves of rustling sorrow into my heart. Prisoners continually empty half a word. The vegetable is as tasteless as a sleeping dragon. My girl smeared my pain with a feeble light, exposing lotus leaves I never dreamed of her. Silent passage oblivious to desire. Buckthorn trees curse the endless gods. How lovely the longing for encampment. Like a fog dabbled, she wouldn't dance. I've been reading from Samsara Conjuries, a lifelong poem that I've been writing since 1978, and I've only now managed to get a print edition of it out. I've been reading from the last and final book, book 14. It's called Truth, Squeal, and Vacuum, and the poems are essentially individual emails that are written to famous characters in history.